Malaysia hopes ties with countries across the globe continue to flourish. American Cardinal Robert Prevost elected as Pope. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mohanapriya and you're watching World Today. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has expressed hope that Malaysia's ties with its ASEAN neighbours and countries across the globe will continue to flourish harmoniously, yielding mutual benefits in diplomacy, trade, investment and other key sectors. He shared this aspiration in a Facebook post following telephone conversations with the three of his counterparts, namely Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Timor-Leste Prime Minister Kerana Xanana Gusmao and Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra. He said the discussions centred on current global and regional issues, ASEAN matters, the impact of US tariffs and ongoing efforts to strengthen bilateral and regional cooperation. He also extended an invitation for Albanese to visit Malaysia, congratulating him on his re-election. With Timor-Leste's Prime Minister Xanana Gusmao, Anwar discussed the humanitarian crisis in Myanmar and Timor-Leste's push to become a full ASEAN member. He reaffirmed Malaysia's readiness to host the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur later this month as ASEAN chair. He also reviewed bilateral issues with Thai PM Paetongtarn Shinawatra, particularly on the Southern Thailand peace dialogue. Datuk Seri Anwar emphasised the need for non-violent peace-building efforts in the region. ASEAN is moving closer to adopting region-wide guidelines for the safe and responsible use of social media. The initiative, led by Malaysia, aims to tackle growing challenges tied to online platforms. Deputy Communications Minister Teo Ni Ching says the guidelines are expected to be finalised within 3 months and adopted by all ASEAN member states by next year. The effort includes a workshop this month to gather broader feedback and ensure the recommendations are comprehensive and inclusive. The guidelines aim to provide a common framework across Southeast Asia, assess current regulations and suggest practical steps tailored to the region's unique needs. Speaking at the 17th Conference of ASEAN Ministers responsible for information, AMRI, in Bandar Seri Begawan, Teo stressed that no country can face the digital challenges alone. She called for ASEAN unity in dealing with tech giants like Meta, Google and TikTok to promote a safer online environment. The AMRI meeting wrapped up Wednesday following senior-level talks and sessions with Japan and other regional partners. A historic moment at the Vatican. Robert Francis Prevost has been elected Pope, becoming the first American to lead the Catholic Church. He will be known as Pope Leo XIV. Cheers erupted from tens of thousands gathered at St. Peter's Square as white smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel, signalling the cardinals had reached a decision on their second day of voting. Prevost then appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, smiling, waving, and greeting the world with his first words as Pope, "Peace be with you." The bells of St. Peter's rang out as churches across Rome joined in the celebration. Pope Leo succeeds Pope Francis, who died last month at 88 after a 12-year papacy marked by compassion, reform and controversy over his progressive stances. Now, the new pontiff faces major challenges, asserting moral leadership on a divided global stage, uniting a fractured church and addressing the continued fallout from the sexual abuse crisis. Leo XIV becomes the 267th Pope, stepping into a role that carries both enormous spiritual weight and global expectation. Newly elected Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, is making history as the first American pope. The 69-year-old Chicago native brings decades of experience both as a missionary and a Vatican insider. He spent over 20 years serving in Peru with the Augustinian order and later held powerful roles within the church's leadership. Most recently, Pope Francis appointed him to head the dicastery for bishops, a key Vatican office advising on global bishop appointments. He also leads the Pontifical Commission for Latin America. Born to a French, Italian and Spanish family, Prevost entered the Augustinian order in St. Louis, earned a math degree from Villanova, and later studied theology and canon law in Chicago and Rome. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim has extended his congratulations to Catholics worldwide, especially in Malaysia, following the election of Pope Leo XIV as the new head of the Roman Catholic Church. He described the moment as historic and expressed hope that the appointment would mark a new chapter for the global Catholic community. In a Facebook post today, he expressed confidence that Pope Leo's leadership will bring fresh inspiration and reaffirmed Malaysia's strong ties with the Holy See. He added that Malaysia values its strong ties with the Holy See and looks forward to continued cooperation based on mutual respect, dialogue, and a shared commitment to peace and human dignity. Malaysia has unequivocally condemned Israel's declared plan to establish a sustained presence in Gaza and forcibly displace over 2 million Palestinians, saying the act amounts to ethnic cleansing. In a statement on Thursday, the Foreign Ministry said the imposition of military control over humanitarian aid and the systematic displacement of civilians constitute flagrant breaches of international law and exemplify Israel's persistent defiance of international law. The statement read that the forced removal of populations and deliberate use of starvation as a weapon are war crimes. The ministry said Israel's aggression, now extending beyond Palestine, with airstrikes on Yemen's Hodeidah port, Sana'a International Airport and other sites across the region, highlight a pattern of reckless escalation that endangers all civilian lives and threatens regional stability. It also urged the international community through the United Nations to immediately take action, adding that the blockade of Gaza and the targeting of civilians must end without delay. It reiterated Malaysia's unwavering support for the Palestinian people's inalienable right to self-determination and the establishment of an independent, sovereign state of Palestine. India and Pakistan accused each other on Thursday of carrying out waves of drone attacks as deadly confrontations between the nuclear-armed foes drew global calls for calm. The fighting comes 2 weeks after New Delhi blamed Islamabad for backing an attack on the Indian-run side of disputed Kashmir, which Pakistan denied. On Thursday, Pakistan's army said it shot down 28 Indian drones, while New Delhi accused Islamabad of launching raids with drones and missiles and claimed it destroyed an air defense system in Lahore. Pakistan denied that it had launched any strikes on India on Thursday, with the top military spokesman terming India's drone strikes a phantom defense. At least 48 people have been killed on both sides of the border since India launched airstrikes on Wednesday that it claimed it targeted terrorist camps, sparking the worst violence in decades between the South Asian neighbors. The majority of the casualties have been in Pakistan, where authorities said at least 32 were killed, including 12 children. The countries have fought 2 of their 3 full-scale wars over Kashmir, a disputed territory that both claim in full but administer separate portions of since gaining independence from British rule in 1947. Meanwhile, Pakistan's defense minister said on Thursday that Gulf nations were involved in de-escalation efforts for the India-Pakistan confrontation. Minister Khawaja Muhammad Asif, however, said India was making it almost impossible to stop the conflict.
Who were close to us, and obviously they have a good relationship with India also. They have also advised that de-escalation should take place immediately. But India is making it, it's almost impossible. Every day there is an incident which raises the bar of conflict in the subcontinent.
World powers from the US to Russia and China have called for calm in one of the world's most dangerous and most populated nuclear flashpoint regions. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio urged de-escalation and expressed support for direct dialogue in separate calls with Indian External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar and Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Asif also said that further retaliation was increasingly certain on the second day of major clashes between the nuclear-armed neighbours. Coming up, United States and United Kingdom strike historic new trade deal. But first, Microsoft co-founder and billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates has announced he will donate nearly his entire fortune, worth around $200 billion over the next 2 decades. Gates, 69, says the decision marks the final chapter of his career, with a focus on shaping a better future for the world. He revealed that the future work of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation will concentrate on 3 key areas: preventing maternal and child deaths, eradicating deadly infectious diseases, and helping hundreds of millions escape poverty. As part of the plan, Gates also announced the foundation will permanently shut down by the year 2045. In his announcement, Gates called on fellow billionaires to accelerate their charitable giving, saying it's one of the most impactful ways to serve society. Forbes currently estimates Gates' net worth at $113 billion. The United States and the United Kingdom have reached what's being called a great and historic trade agreement. US President Donald Trump says it marks the first in a series of trade deals negotiated by his administration over the past 4 weeks. Under the agreement, the UK will ease several non-tariff barriers previously seen as discriminatory against American products. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the deal will not only boost bilateral trade but also create jobs and open up new market access for both nations. While some technical details are still being negotiated, President Trump confirmed the core framework of the agreement has already been finalized. The deal signals a new phase in US-UK economic relations. Stock markets mostly rose Thursday as US President Donald Trump unveiled a trade deal with Britain, boosting hopes for other countries' tariff negotiations. Now, Wall Street indices spent the entire day in positive territory, with the S&P 500 finishing up 0.6%. However, London's blue-chip FTSE 100 index dipped into the red, shedding 0.3% as the Bank of England trimmed its main interest rate by a quarter point to 4.25%. Bitcoin climbed above $100,000 for the first time since February, while the dollar strengthened against the euro and other major currencies. Frankfurt led European equity gains after data showed German industrial production jumped more than expected in March, a boost for Europe's biggest economy. Paris also climbed, tracking gains in Tokyo, Hong Kong and Shanghai. Britain agreed to lower its tariffs to 1.8% from 5.1% and provide greater access to US goods as part of the deal. Meanwhile, a 10% baseline tariff on goods imported from the UK into the US remains in place. Toyota Motors expects a profit to decline by a fifth in the current financial year, it said on Thursday, as weaknesses in the US dollar and the impact of President Donald Trump's tariffs weigh on the world's largest automaker. In the latest example of how global trade disruption is hitting bottom lines, the world's top-selling car manufacturer said it expected operating income to total 3.8 trillion yen in the year to March 2026 versus 4.8 trillion yen in the year that just ended. Toyota's results also show how the tariffs have the potential to hit companies on a number of fronts simultaneously. While the automaker estimated the levies directly costing it at 180 billion yen in April and May, it said currency movement would be the biggest single impact on its full-year forecast at 745 billion yen. Uncertainty around Trump's tariffs and their implication for global trade have weighed on the dollar. For Toyota, a weaker dollar means less profit when U.S. earnings are brought home. However, Chief Executive Koji Sato told reporters that his company will work to maintain domestic production and protect the supply chain as the auto manufacturer giant holds an important role in raking in foreign currency through exports to Japan. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday said China and Russia must maintain strategic resolve and coordination as the world enters a new period of turbulence and transformation. He added that as long as both nations stay united in strategy, no force could hinder their development and revitalization. Xi made the remarks during a tea chat with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin in Moscow, held as part of his visit to attend events commemorating the 80th anniversary of Victory Day. He also emphasized that the foundation of friendship between the two peoples remains unshakable, and the global trend towards multipolarity and economic globalization cannot be reversed. Xi expressed his readiness to maintain close communication with Putin to chart the course of China-Russia relations and contribute to the advancement of global governance. Putin, in response, said Russia and China have always stood in solidarity and supported each other, forging an unbreakable friendship. He said he is committed to maintaining close strategic dialogue with Xi, guiding the development of bilateral ties and working together to address a complex global landscape. Senegal's National Assembly on Thursday voted to order a special court to try 5 former ministers accused of corruption. The 5 were all ministers under former President Macky Sall, whose administration has been targeted by current President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. The 5 former ministers have been accused of diverting money from a fund set up to fight the COVID-19 pandemic in the West African nation in the years 2020 to 2021. However, Senegal's opposition has called the case a witch hunt. Last Friday, lawmakers lifted parliamentary immunity from prosecution for 2 opposition MPs caught up in the allegations while serving in Sall's administration. Several prominent figures, including artists, broadcasters, fashion designers, as well as senior officials, have also been questioned during an investigation. Proceedings of this type are rare in Senegal, and cases against former ministers must be authorized by lawmakers. The Assembly on Friday voted to lift immunity from prosecution against 2 opposition MPs caught up in the allegations. King Charles on Thursday joined veterans and other royal family members at London's Westminster Abbey for a service to mark 80 years since the end of World War II. Arriving at the Abbey, Charles and his eldest son Prince William laid wreaths at the church's tomb of the unknown warrior. This year's commemorations have had an extra poignancy due to the great age of the dwindling numbers of surviving veterans. As he paid tribute in a speech later Thursday, Charles called for a global commitment to restoring peace, saying the Allied victory in 1945 was a result of unity between nations, races, religions and ideologies, fighting back against an existential threat to humanity. At the service, which was preceded by a nationwide 2-minute silence, wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill's 10-year-old great-great-grandson, Alexander, lit a candle of peace. King Charles was also accompanied by Queen Camilla, William's wife, Princess Catherine, and other senior members of the royal family. Prime Minister Keir Starmer and other politicians and dignitaries also attended. Coming up next in sports, Manchester United reach Europa League final after dispatching Athletic Bilbao. National bowling ace Mohammad Rafiq Ismail intends to make amends for last year's disappointment by winning this year's Kuala Lumpur International Open Bowling Championships, which will be held at the Sunway Mega Lanes Sunway Pyramid from the 25th of May to the 1st of June. The 24-year-old, still buzzing from his runner-up finish in the PBA Scorpion Championship at the National Bowling Stadium in Reno, Nevada, the United States last month, admitted to performing below par in last year's edition.
Jadi saya akan work on physical punya game dengan coach. Saya pun dah ada borak dengan coach. Jadi saya harap KL Open ni saya dapat go through lah apa yang saya selama ni saya rasa macam saya kekurangan. Jadi saya harap KL Open ni saya go through lah.
As for Malaysia's challenge in this year's edition, which is expected to be more hotly contested with the presence of world-class bowlers, Rafiq expressed confidence in the ability of local kegglers and does not view the foreign charge to be a big threat. This year's KL International Open is set to be a thrilling affair with the participation of over 800 kegglers from 12 countries, with the total prize money on offer rising from 250,000 last year to 317,000 ringgit this year, thus making this one of Malaysia's most lucrative bowling tournaments. Armed with a second-hand putter purchased from a thrift shop while having dinner last week in Korea, Australia's Lucas Herbert waltzed his way to a two-shot lead and tied the course record with a bogey-free 9 under par 62 in the opening round of the $2 million International Series Japan. The putter was smoking hot throughout the day, but especially on holes 1 to 7, where he made 6 birdies and an eagle to overtake the morning leader Shunya Takeyasu of Japan. The eagle came on the par 5 second hole, where Herbert smashed a 5-foot to 20 feet and converted the first of his long putts for the day. Takeyasu handled the windy conditions well in a bogey-free round of 64. Korea's Yong-Han Song was in third place, aided by a hole-in-one on the 6th hole as he closed with a 65. Local hero Shugo Imahira, who is trying to find his way back into the form that carried him to world number 30 in 2019, did his chances no harm with a 66, which tied him for 4th place with compatriot Ren Yosenawa, Guatemala's Jose Toledo, American LIV golf star Cameron Triangle, and Thailand's Atiruch Wainacharonchai. The 29-year-old Herbert is part of the All-Australian Ripper GC team on LIV Golf and was in Incheon last week for Live Golf Korea. He had 3 top 5 finishes on LIV this year, but felt that he could have done better with how he hit the ball. Manchester United beat Athletic Bilbao 4-1 in the Europa League early this morning to complete an emphatic 7-1 aggregate semi-final victory, setting up a mouth-watering showpiece against Tottenham. Fireworks crackled and red smoke filled an expectant Old Trafford following an impressive 3-0 win against 10-man Athletic in northern Spain last week. But the air of excitement was tinged by the knowledge that Ruben Amorim's United have shown a startling ability to implode during a horrendous Premier League season. Amorim reverted to the team that started in the first leg, making 8 changes following Sunday's 4-3 defeat against Brentford. Mikel Jorge-Gizar silenced the home fans and gave the visitors hope on the night with a stunning strike in the 31st minute. For long periods of the match, the visitors looked more dangerous, but substitute Mason Mount settled the home supporters' nerves with 18 minutes to go. The match totally changed complexion as Casemiro, Rasmus Holland and Mount again scored. Winning Europe's second-tier club trophy crucially guarantees a place in the Champions League, which would boost United's chances of attracting top talent as Amorim attempts a monumental rebuild. Mexico City is gearing up to welcome more than 5 million visitors for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, whose opening match will be played in the sprawling mega city. Now, the top football tournament will be held in Mexico, the United States and Canada, marking the first time that 3 countries co-host the event. 3 of the 16 venues will be in the Latin American nation, with the central city of Guadalajara and northern industrial hub of Monterrey sharing Mexico's host duties with the capital. 11 other venues will be in the United States and 2 in Canada. Interior Minister Rosa Isela Rodriguez said Mexico's government and city authorities are working together to ensure that the experience is safe and smooth. The iconic Azteca Stadium, which has hosted 2 FIFA World Cup finals, is on track to be renovated by the time the whistle blows for the opening match on the 11th of June. More than $100 million is being invested in the stadium, its Director General Felix Ogoe said, promising that it will be ready. The renovation triggered controversy after the venue was renamed after the bank that funded the work. FIFA ordered the stadium to be referred to as Mexico City Stadium because of its branding values. Addressing security concerns in a country plagued by criminal violence, Mexico City Mayor Clara Brugada said 40,000 new security cameras would be acquired, bringing the total to 123,000. Meanwhile, Los Angeles will be ready to welcome the world when it hosts the Olympics in 2028 and will use the time leading up to the opening ceremony to improve the city. Now, Games organizers LA28 revealed earlier that Coliseum and SoFi Stadium in Inglewood would host the opening ceremony in an unprecedented dual-venue celebration, marking another milestone in planning. LA Mayor Karen Bass said in a press conference at Memorial Coliseum on Thursday that the Coliseum would serve as the heartbeat for the Games that will stretch from the San Fernando Valley in the north to Trestles Beach in the south, with competitions in downtown LA, Long Beach, Universal Studios and beyond. To that end, Bass has launched a Shine LA program that brings communities together to beautify neighborhoods block by block. Los Angeles was hit by a series of devastating wildfires in January that reduced entire neighborhoods to ash, leaving some to wonder if it was wise for the city to host the mega sporting event. California Governor Gavin Newsom has referred to the Games as the Recovery Games in the wake of the fires, and LA28 CEO Reynold Hoover said the Games would be an economic engine, providing a benefit of about $18 billion to the city and region. Malaysia hopes ties with countries across the globe continue to flourish. Till then, I'm Mohana Priya. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for your company.